This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Monday, January 19th, 2026. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
Anti-ICE protesters storm a church in Minnesota as lawmakers defend and criticize ICE actions in that state. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
Tensions between the U.S. and Europe starting to grow surrounding Greenland.
Make it part of the United States.
I'm Clayton Neville.
Hungary, India, Jordan, Greece, Cyprus, and Pakistan say they've received invitations to join President Donald Trump's Board of Peace. I'm Donna Warder.
On Wall Street, it's quiet. The markets are closed today for this Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. We'll tell you where the markets stand. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
A drunk driver has been sentenced to 24 years to life in prison for killing 4 people in New York City. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
New York City's nurses' strike enters week 2, and who the Ayatollah blames for Iranian protests. All ahead on America in the Morning. With the ICE presence in Minnesota, protests continued over the weekend as lawmakers took to the Sunday shows to defend or criticize their actions. With the latest from Washington, here's correspondent John Stolnis.
Protesters organized by the Black Lives Matter group stormed a Twin Cities church on Sunday, shouting down a pastor who they allege also leads a local ICE field office. Attorney General Pam Bondi on social media said her department will investigate any violations of federal law by any protesters. Meanwhile, the U.S. Army has put 1,500 soldiers on standby for a possible deployment to Minnesota using the 19th Century Insurrection Act. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey says that would be unconstitutional, and speaking on CBS's Face the Nation, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem challenged Frey to restrict where people are allowed to protest.
If he would set up a peaceful protest zone so that these individuals can exercise their First Amendment rights and do so peacefully, we would love that.
We've got tens of thousands of people in Minneapolis that are grinning down the bear, that are peacefully expressing their First Amendment rights. So no, you can't have just one section of a city. That's not the way First Amendment works.
The Justice Department is investigating whether Minnesota Governor Tim Walz or Mayor Frey are impeding federal immigration enforcement. On CNN's State of the Union, Democratic Congressman Ruben Gallego says the Trump administration's immigration actions should be investigated.
Well, look, I think ICE needs to be totally torn down. People want immigration enforcement that goes after criminals, and immigration enforcement is actually focused on security and not the goon squad that has come from Stephen Miller and Donald Trump.
No investigation is being conducted on the ICE agent who shot protester Renee Good 2 weeks ago. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche on Fox News Sunday.
The Department of Justice doesn't just stand up and investigate because some congressman thinks we should, because some governor thinks that we should. We investigate when it's appropriate to investigate, and that is not the case here. It wasn't the case when it happened, and it's not the case today.
A new CBS News YouGov poll finds 61% of Americans believe the way ICE is conducting its raids is too tough. A quarter say it's just right, and 15% say it's not tough enough. John Stolnis, Washington.
European leaders are responding to potential tariffs by the United States on EU countries that don't agree with President Trump's plan to acquire Greenland. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
President Trump insists that acquiring Greenland is an issue of national security and that it's critical in the United States' plan for a Golden Dome to protect against missile attacks. On NBC's Meet the Press, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent backed the idea of taking Greenland.
If there were an attack on Greenland from Russia, from some other area, we would get dragged in. So better now, peace through strength, make it part of the United States, and there will not be a conflict.
Republican Senator Tom Cotton was on Fox News Live and maintains that any attack by Russia or China would come over the North Pole.
Greenland also has large deposits of rare earth elements, which China currently uses as leverage against the United States and our allies. So I don't think anyone questions that a closer relationship between the United States and Greenland is in everyone's mutual interest. Frankly, the best solution probably would be to acquire Greenland.
Democratic Congresswoman Madeleine Dean told Fox she's worried that if the U.S. tries to control Greenland, it would lead to a NATO response.
I'm certain that the president understands that it is much more important to have friends and partners of 80 years in world peace, because what if the United States did anything to attack Greenland? That would trigger Article 5. I am certain this administration doesn't want to do that.
President Trump has threatened a 10% tariff on European countries he says oppose U.S. control of Greenland. In a joint statement, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, and the UK, also the Netherlands and Finland, warned that threats, quote, undermine transatlantic relations and could spark a dangerous downward spiral. Ambassador to the UN, Mike Waltz, joined Fox and said why it's important for the U.S. to control Greenland.
We have to secure the United States. The Greenlanders will be better for it, and our alliance will be better for it.
Thousands of protesters demonstrated against the idea of U.S. control of Greenland over the weekend in Denmark and in Greenland. Demonstrators demanding that control should be left up to the citizens. EU leaders plan to talk about their options on tariffs at an emergency summit in Brussels on Thursday of this week. One option reportedly is a package of tariffs on 93 billion euros. That's about 107 billion US dollars of imports that could automatically kick in February 6th. The other is an anti-coercion instrument, which could limit access to public investments or banking activity or restrict trade in some services. I'm Clayton Neville.
The top stories of the day are sponsored by Sleep Number. Enjoy personalized comfort for better sleep night after night. And now, the more you buy, the more you save on beds, bases, and more. Limited time, only at Sleep Number or sleepnumber.com. Nurses strike with no end in sight when America in the Morning continues after these messages. Back on America in the Morning with the national forecast, here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
The latest storm across the Northeast will be exiting the coast first thing this morning across coastal New England. This will lead to some slow and slippery starts for many commuters, but fortunately many places will have fewer school buses because of the holiday. Behind the system, it is going to remain quite cold through the Northeast into the Great Lakes and Northern Plains. It's going to produce more lake effect snow through the day, with some places in western Michigan and western New York having a foot of snow with an AccuWeather local storm max of 20 inches. Even away from the lakes, snow showers will cover a large area southward through Ohio into West Virginia and then continuing into parts of Pennsylvania. Afternoon highs through parts of northern Minnesota into Wisconsin, Iowa, and Illinois will be in the single digits, even the single digits below zero in northern Minnesota. And then taking into account the wind, AccuWeather real field temperatures will drop down to 30 to 50 degrees below zero at times. This can be a dangerous time for these northern folk. Meanwhile, there'll be some snow and flurries in parts of eastern Colorado to start the day, and that will extend into western Kansas later this morning into the afternoon, and this could lead to some slippery spots to start the day as well. Farther east, there'll be more sunshine, but the cold will also reach into Oklahoma and North Texas, eastward of the Tennessee Valley, and a good part of the southeast. There'll be teens and 20s in parts of Missouri, into southern Illinois and Indiana, into Kentucky, and then 30s and 40s in Oklahoma and North Texas, and then into northern Georgia. In the west, it'll be another story with high pressure covering the area. It'll be milder with sunshine. That's the weather across America. It's going to be very cold in St. Louis, Missouri, despite plenty of sunshine today with a high of 23. Los Angeles, California will be feeling the warmth with sunshine and a high of 77. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. Striking New York nurses entering their second week have resumed contract talks with one of the city's major hospital systems. Correspondent Mike Hempen reports the nation's largest city has 15,000 nurses on the picket lines.
The nurses are again negotiating with Mount Sinai. The New York State Nurses Association says its bargaining team has begun meeting with negotiators at 3 Mount Sinai hospitals. The union met Thursday night with administrators at New York Presbyterian, but both sides say little progress was made. Talks have not resumed with Montefiore, the third major hospital system impacted. Each hospital is negotiating with the union separately. About 15,000 nurses walked off the job. The affected hospitals have hired thousands of temporary nurses and say their operations have been running smoothly. I'm Mike Hempen.
Several more countries say the U.S. has invited them to join President Trump's Board of Peace for Gaza. Correspondent Donna Warder reports that joining that group also comes at a price.
Hungary, India, Jordan, Greece, Cyprus, and Pakistan say Sunday that they've received invitations to join President Donald Trump's Board of Peace, a new body of world leaders meant to oversee the next steps for Gaza and possibly the globe. A $1 billion contribution would secure permanent membership on the board and help pay for rebuilding Gaza. Otherwise, no contribution would mean a 3-year appointment for a country. Hungary's foreign minister says Prime Minister Viktor Orban has already accepted the invitation. Already invited were Canada, Turkey, Egypt, Paraguay, Argentina, and Albania. Trump would lead the board, and the U.S. is expected to announce its official list of members in the coming days. Trump says the Board of Peace would embark on a bold new approach to resolving global conflict.
They approved the Board of Peace, which is I'm going to chair. And we're picking the leaders or the heads of the most important nations in the world. I think it'll be a board like no other.
I'm Donna Warder.
Gold, silver, and more, the metals market. When we return, a closer look at where prices are expected to head when America in the Morning continues after these messages. With a pause on Wall Street today, here's a chance to look back on what the year has offered thus far from the markets. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street is quiet this morning. The financial markets are closed today for the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. The major averages so far for the year are in the green. Investors hoping to see the S&P 500 index top 7,000 for the first time.
So we've had 5 different days in the last 6 when it's gone within 0.5% of 7,000 and just pulled back. Now, not major pullbacks. The market is still has a healthy look to it. S&P's up 1.5% this year.
CNBC's Mike Santoli. We're only 11 trading days into 2026. If you're itching to buy and sell something today, you know there's always Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. That market never closes. Last week, President Trump threatened tariffs on countries sending goods into the U.S. that don't go along with America's purchase of Greenland. Here's U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer on CNBC.
Tariffs is just in the long line of tradition of presidents using American geopolitical power to achieve American geopolitical goals. And so I'll continue working with the president on whatever he needs to do on that front.
Silver and gold near record highs. Coin dealers around the U.S. that buy precious metals in the form of old jewelry, cutlery, grandma's old silver set, or grandpa's old gold teeth, and more have been very busy. Americans have been selling to raise cash to pay their bills. Spot metal prices are not what consumers get when you walk into a local coin dealer, but you're going to get more now for your items than you would have. Meantime, MKS PAMP's Nikki Shields tells CNBC, metals may have some pullbacks in their prices, but overall, long term, she thinks they're going up.
You know, copper, platinum, palladium, silver, it's a critical metal. A lot of those stockpiles are sitting in the U.S., which is unavailable for the rest of the world. They're all used in the energy transition, in sort of the AI economy. It's a supply side story, right? So you've underinvested in these critical metals for the past 10 years, and you just can't build a mine overnight. And so investors want scarcity, and they want assets with utility so that, you know, copper fits the bill, silver fits the bill, platinum fits the bill. It's just ramping up.
Tonight, it's all about college football with the national championship in Miami. It's Indiana and Miami tonight. Sports betting apps are hoping it's a profitable game. Krispy Kreme has championship dozen football-shaped donuts today. Orange for Miami, crimson for Indiana, with white football laces made of icing, with white icing football laces. Today, you can buy a dozen of those and get a dozen original glazed in addition for $1. On the coming week's watch list, America's top business leaders and economists are in Davos, Switzerland, or heading there today for the World Economic Forum.
CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. Coming up next, the fate of a drunk driver convicted of killing 4 people when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. For the first time, Iran's ruling government has publicly stated that the death toll from the nationwide protests against the Ayatollah's regime is in the thousands. U.S. and UN agencies also say that the number of arrests exceeds 24,000. Iran remains under an internet blackout, and in a nationwide address, the Ayatollah blamed the United States and Israel as being behind the anti-government protests, saying, quote, "Those linked to Israel and the U.S. caused massive damages and killed several thousands," end quote. The Ayatollah also branded President Trump as a criminal, directly blaming Trump for the casualties and the damage. A New York man has learned his fate after being found guilty of killing 4 people while driving drunk. Lisa Dwyer reports.
A drunk driver has been sentenced to 24 years to life in prison for killing 4 people at a 4th of July picnic in New York City. Daniel Hayden, who worked as a substance abuse counselor and wrote a book on addiction, was convicted of murder and other charges. Prosecutors say in 2024, he drove a Ford F-150 at high speed through a fence and did not stop until he hit a family and friends celebrating at a park in Lower Manhattan. The truck stopped just feet from Helena Herrera, its momentum halted by bodies trapped underneath. Herrera says she is still haunted by the fact that the only reason she is still alive is that the bodies of her best friend and others is what actually stopped the truck. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
America in the Morning for Monday, January 19th, 2026 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
Virginia's new governor gets right to work, cutting off state cooperation with ICE. I'm Richard Johnson.
Lawyers for the Utah man charged with killing conservative activist Charlie Kirk are trying to disqualify prosecutors. I'm Ed Donahue.
A Sunday morning political talk show host called out by Kristi Noem. I'm Clayton Neville.
The Supreme Court will hear an appeal from a popular weed killer's maker to block thousands of lawsuits. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
FTC warning tech companies about poaching. I'm the new old tech guy, Chuck Palm.
A public memorial for the Grateful Dead's Bob Weir took place this weekend. I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. America in the Morning continues with the Monday forecast. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
It is going to turn quite cold across the northern plains into the Great Lakes today and tonight. Afternoon highs through parts of Minnesota into Wisconsin, Iowa, and Illinois will be in the single digits, even the single digits below zero in northern Minnesota. Taking into account the wind, AccuWeather real field temperatures will drop to 30 to 50 degrees below zero at times. This can be a dangerous time for anyone outside for longer periods. This is going to be producing another round of lake effect snow through the region. Some places in western Michigan and western New York could have over a foot of snow with an AccuWeather local storm max of 20 inches. Even away from the lake, snow showers will cover a large area through Ohio into West Virginia and parts of Pennsylvania. The storm leading into some of this cold will be exiting the coast first thing this morning along coastal New England. There'll be a little bit of snow to start, and this could lead to a slow and slippery start for any commuters, but the holiday should lessen traffic a little. Meanwhile, there'll be a little snow and flurries in parts of eastern Colorado to start the day that will extend into western Kansas later this morning into the afternoon, and this could lead to some slippery spots to start the day as well. And farther east, there'll be more sunshine, but the cold will also reach into Oklahoma and North Texas, eastward through the Tennessee Valley, and a good part of the southeast, with teens and 20s in parts of Missouri, southern Illinois into Indiana and Kentucky, and 30s and 40s into Oklahoma and North Texas, eastward to northern Georgia. In the west, it'll be another story as high pressure covers the area. Some valley regions will remain socked in with low clouds and fog, but sunshine will permeate most places with afternoon temperatures near or above average with highs in the 30s and 40s in the north and near 80 in the south. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. As the governor of Minnesota has his state's National Guard on standby to keep the peace in the state's largest city, the Pentagon is readying 1,500 active duty soldiers from Alaska's 11th Airborne Division for possible deployment to Minneapolis after President Trump threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act in response to unrest. As correspondent Julie Walker reports, the Minneapolis mayor is demanding the federal government not escalate the situation, while DHS wants to protect ICE agents from possible retaliation.
Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry says sending active duty soldiers to Minnesota for an immigration crackdown is ridiculous and unconstitutional.
This is not just about resistance here in Minneapolis. It's about love. We are showing something far more powerful and consequential here, which is love. We are standing up for one another. You've got neighbors helping neighbors. You've got people uniting and coming together in this beautiful way.
He's urging protesters to remain peaceful. He's also responding to reports that the DOJ is investigating him and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz.
We have not received a subpoena. And at the same time, if the rumors are true, this is deeply concerning because this is way more important than just me. This is a very serious matter. And this whole investigation would ultimately be the product of one of the most basic foundational responsibilities that I have as mayor, which is to speak on behalf of my constituents.
He also said Sunday on ABC This Week,
here we have a freedom of speech, and we do not negotiate those rights away.
The Pentagon ordering about 1,500 active duty soldiers based in Alaska, specializing in operating in Arctic conditions, to be ready in case of possible deployment to Minnesota, according to two defense officials. President Trump had threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act, but has since backed off.
The Insurrection Act, which has been used by 48% of the presidents as of this moment, the Insurrection Act also, if you look at it, I believe it was Bush, the elder Bush, he used it, I think, 28 times. It's been used a lot.
I'm Julie Walker.
Virginia's first female governor, Abigail Spanberger, has signed 10 executive orders, including one that ends state cooperation with ICE. More on the governor's first day from correspondent Rich Johnson.
I, Abigail Davis Spanberger, do solemnly swear
that I will support a former member of Congress, a former CIA officer, Abigail Spanberger, dove right into blasting the Trump administration in her inaugural address.
breaking the social safety net and sowing fear across our communities, betraying the values of who we are as Americans, the very values that we celebrate here on these steps.
As governor of the only state that limits governors to just one 4-year term, Spanberger went right to work, signing 10 executive orders, including one that rescinds the order from predecessor Glenn Youngkin that mandated state law enforcement cooperation with ICE.
State and local law enforcement should not be required to divert their limited resources to enforce federal civil immigration laws. It is a responsibility of federal law enforcement.
Spanberger will dive deeper into her agenda during an address to both bodies of the Virginia legislature later today. The winner of the other off-year governor's race, Mikey Sherrill, will be sworn in tomorrow in New Jersey. The Democrat won a tight race in November on a platform of accountability and affordability. That, she said earlier this month, starts with a high cost of electricity in the Garden State.
So on day one, I am declaring a state of emergency and signing executive orders to freeze rate hikes.
Sherrill's comment courtesy of WHYY. She also wants to make government more transparent, especially when it comes to small business owners and the permit process. I'm Rich Johnson.
Lawyers for the man accused of killing Charlie Kirk spent last Friday pushing for prosecutors to be pulled from the case over what they allege is a conflict of interest. Ed Donahue reports the back and forth between the prosecution and defense in the case will continue to play out in a Utah courtroom.
Lawyers for the Utah man charged with killing conservative activist Charlie Kirk are trying to disqualify prosecutors.
We fully expected that what the Utah County attorneys would do is refer the motion to the Attorney General's office so that the Utah County attorneys are not in the position of representing their own interests as potentially conflicted attorneys in a potentially conflicted office, and representing the state's interest in the prosecution.
Tyler Robinson's attorney, Richard Novak, is alleging a conflict of interest because the 18-year-old daughter of a deputy county attorney involved in the case was at the rally where Charlie Kirk was shot and killed.
And experienced and witnessed certain things. We didn't make this up out of whole cloth. We didn't grab onto some piece of discovery and say, a wedge, a tactic.
An affidavit presented by prosecutors says the daughter did not see the shooting but heard a loud pop. This is Utah County Attorney Jeff Gray.
This is ambush and another stalling tactic to delay these proceedings.
The defense also says the rush to seek the death penalty against Robinson is evidence of strong emotional reactions by prosecutors, and the entire team should be disqualified.
The idea that the case would be referred, that alleging a conflict would cause a special prosecutor to be appointed, that really assumes that there is a conflict. And until that conflict has been established, there is no duty for the case to be referred to another jurisdiction or another special prosecutor to handle.
I'm Ed Donahue.
U.S. drug enforcement with a dim view of Venezuela's acting president when America in the Morning continues after these messages. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem takes exception with CBS News host Margaret Brennan on Sunday for naming the ICE agent who fatally shot Renee Good in Minneapolis this month. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
During an interview with DHS Secretary Kristi Noem on CBS's Face the Nation, host Margaret Brennan asked the secretary about the health condition of the officer who shot and killed Renee Good after federal authorities say that he was rammed by a vehicle driven by Good. Brennan said his name in the question, and Noem didn't like that.
We shouldn't have people continue to dox law enforcement when they have an 8,000% increase in death threats against them. I know, but that doesn't mean it should continue to be said. His life, he got attacked with a car that was trying to take his life, and then the people have attacked him and his family, and they are in jeopardy. And we have law enforcement officers every day who are getting death threats and getting attacked at their hotels.
Brennan then pressed Noem about the agent's condition.
So is he back at work? Did you give him the required 3 days of suspension? We followed the exact same protocols that we always have for years.
CBS reported that U.S. officials were claiming the agent experienced internal bleeding in his torso. Noem wouldn't confirm that. I'm Clayton Neville.
A head-on collision between two high-speed commuter trains in Spain has left dozens of people dead. Spain's transport minister says the last cars on one of the trains derailed and leaning over an adjacent track when another train that had just left Madrid crashed into it. Spanish media has reported there were between 400 and 500 passengers combined on the two trains. Questions are being raised after an Associated Press investigation into Venezuela's acting president found she's been on the radar of the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency for a number of years. Correspondent Donna Warder reports.
Delcy Rodriguez, Venezuela's acting president, in an address on Friday talking about her country's oil reserves and attracting investment. Rodriguez became acting president after the U.S. military went into the country and captured Nicolas Maduro to face drug trafficking charges. But an Associated Press investigation has discovered that Rodriguez has been on the radar of the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration for years. And in 2022, she was labeled a priority target. That's according to records obtained by the AP and more than a half dozen current and former U.S. law enforcement officials. And the DEA has been keeping an intelligence file on Rodriguez since at least 2018, cataloging her known associates and allegations ranging from drug trafficking to gold smuggling. After Maduro's capture, President Donald Trump portrayed Rodriguez as the preferred partner of the U.S. to stabilize Venezuela. I'm Donna Warder.
A small town in southern New Jersey is in mourning after a revered retired high school football coach and his wife died when their SUV careened off a road, smashed into a house, and caught fire. It happened in the town of Harrison Township, about 25 miles east of Wilmington, Delaware. Police say Thomas Hengel and his wife, both residents of neighboring Mullica Hill, New Jersey, were killed. The 72-year-old Hengel was a coach at Clearview High School from 1981 until his retirement in 2025 and was inducted into the Gloucester County Hall of Fame. Police are trying to determine why the couple's SUV accelerated before hitting the home. The FTC has been a bit more lenient on tech mergers of late, but has recently signaled they won't be looking the other way. Chuck Palm has that story as the new old tech guy.
The FTC is ramping up scrutiny on what insiders call acqui-hires. That's when tech giants like Microsoft, Meta, or Amazon snag top talent from startup groups by hiring key employees and licensing their tech instead of buying the whole company outright. Some claim this lets them dodge the usual antitrust reviews that come with full mergers. FTC Chairman Andrew Ferguson told Bloomberg News that they're examining these deals to ensure that they're not just a sneaky workaround. He also pointed out that the Biden era was tougher on enforcement as a driver for this trend. NVIDIA recently licensed chip tech from a startup called Grog, not to be confused with xAI's Grok, and hired their CEO. Microsoft shelled out $650 million to poach an AI exec. Meta has spent a whopping $15 billion to bring in Scale AI leader without acquiring the firm. And Amazon has grabbed founders from Adapt AI. None of these mergers have been blocked, but regulators are signaling there are no more easy loopholes. This could level the playing field for smaller innovators, preventing big tech from sucking up talent and shifting the competition. But it might also slow down AI and robotics advances if deals get bogged down in red tape. For more tech stories, visit thenewOldTechGuy.com. I'm Chuck Palm.
It's college football's national championship tonight with sports. Here's America in the Morning's Robert Workman.
Sunday was a cold and snowy day in the NFL's divisional round playoffs. In Foxborough, the Patriots took advantage of 5 turnovers as they topped the Texans 28-16. That puts New England in the AFC title game for the first time since their trek towards Super Bowl 53, 7 years ago. C.J. Stroud was picked off 4 times, including a 26-yard pick six in the second quarter by Marcus Jones that put the Pats ahead to stay. Drake May fired 3 TD passes, but he turned the ball over 3 times, including a couple of fumbles.
We knew it was going to be a battle. We knew this was a great football team coming in here. It was tough. Battle the elements. Props to our defense. They played great. We made enough plays on offense.
But the win's the thing, and that makes 15 of the last 16 for New England. In Chicago, the Rams dodged the Bears 20-17 in overtime for their first trip to the NFC Championship game since they won Super Bowl 56 in 2022. Kyron Williams ran for 2 go-ahead touchdowns for L.A., but Caleb Williams got Chicago even with a pair of TD passes, the latter off a mad scramble with 18 seconds left. In overtime, though, Williams threw his 3rd interception of the evening, and Matthew Stafford moved the Rams into position for thicker kicker Harrison Mevis.
He's a gamer. I just knew his blood pressure would be low. He'd be ready to rock and roll, and just a great operation, great snap, good hold. Those were not easy conditions to do any of that kind of stuff.
So this Sunday's conference championships will have the Patriots at the Broncos in the AFC, followed by the Rams and the Seahawks in Seattle in the NFC. NBA, the Rockets ripped the Pelicans 119-110. Kevin Durant moved past his idol Dirk Nowitzki into 6th place on the all-time scoring list. And down under, Venus Williams made Aussie Open history in her first-round match at age 45, the oldest woman to compete in the main draw, though she bowed out in 3 sets. That's Monday Sports.
Weed killer. Will the Supreme Court take up the case against Roundup? When America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. The Supreme Court announced it will soon take up 4 cases, including one that involves individual states and individuals against the popular weed killer Roundup. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports on whether the justices could potentially block thousands of lawsuits.
The Supreme Court will hear an appeal from a popular weed killer's maker to block thousands of lawsuits. Bayer faces state lawsuits alleging it did not warn people that Roundup could cause cancer. The High Court will consider whether the EPA's approval of Roundup without a cancer warning should rule out the suits. Some studies have associated Roundup's key ingredient with cancer, but the EPA has said the ingredient is not likely to cause the disease in humans when used as directed. The Trump administration has weighed in on Bayer's behalf. That both reverses the Biden administration's position and puts this administration at odds with some supporters who are against giving Bayer the legal immunity it wants. Sagar Magani, Washington.
Fans gather in San Francisco to say goodbye to Grateful Dead guitarist Bobby Weir. Entertainment reporter Kevin Carr has the story.
Friends, family, and fans of Grateful Dead guitarist Bob Weir filled Golden Gate Park on Saturday to say goodbye to the musician who passed away last week at the age of 78. Homecoming, a Bobby Weir celebration of life, streamed on nugs.net and YouTube, started with a prayer by Tibetan monks who've been involved with the band since the 1980s. San Francisco Mayor Daniel Lurie described Weir's connection to the city.
He gave us music that reminded us that we belong to one another.
Singer-songwriter Joan Baez also spoke before launching into a rendition of Oh Freedom.
So to you, Bob, it's oh freedom.
Grateful Dead drummer Mickey Hart remembered his bandmate.
The songs of our lives are yours now, and it's up to all of us to keep the refrain building.
Weir's daughters and their mother were also at the event, and Weir's daughter Monet talked about how important the fans were to his music.
His work here on Earth was always going to feel unfinished because the fans and the community are the ingredients needed to finish it with him.
One of the more emotional moments came from John Mayer, who fought back tears while remembering Weir's impact on his own career.
He staked his entire reputation on my joining a band with him. He gave me musical community. He gave me this community.
Later in the memorial, Mayer performed the Grateful Dead song Ripple. I'm Kevin Carr.
That's our show for today, Monday, January 19th, 2026. America in the Morning is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.